Disclaimer, disclaimer, read all about it.
Gone somewhere and dyed my hair now. Wanna be alone. It's much to bear and you don't care, and I wanna play alone. I got you in my sight. I keep all the words you said to me. I get you, get you, get you, get you on your knees. Rewrite all the things you said that I should be. I'll get you, get you, get you. Now you beg me, please. Hey.
Hey, everybody. Today is October 24th, 2024, which is a Thursday. Halloween's creeping up. I'm excited. Are you excited? We didn't decorate this year. We always decorate, but it's extra level decorations. You can go look at my last year's videos. Yeah, we go all out. But this year, 2 kids, a business, there's just no time. Who has the time? But today we're going to talk about Karen Read. I know it's been a little bit since I've gone live as usual, but I have done extensive research on my own, along with others who follow the Karen Read case. And if you are not familiar, Karen Read on January 29th, 2022, and John O'Keefe, who was a Boston police officer in Canton, Massachusetts, after leaving a bar, they went to a fellow Boston police officer's house named Brian Albert. Now, here's the issue. Karen drops him off by the side of the house, or in front of the house, rather, and John is never seen again. She waits for him and waits for him. She gets more pissed off the longer that she waits, because he never comes back out to tell her, hey, it's okay to come inside and let's come party. So she goes home. She's calling him and texting him and leaving some pretty nasty voicemails, calling him a pervert, things like that. So it doesn't make her look very good. However, she goes home and waits, calls her parents. They don't answer, specifically her mother, on what to do, because John has 2 adoptive children from his sister's marriage. His sister passed away in 2014, and then shortly a month after his sister passes away, his brother-in-law passes away as well. So he adopts the 2 children that they had. Karen didn't want to stay there at John's house waiting for him because she was pissed, but there were kids there, right? So she waited and waited, and she got more and more pissed. So, of course, as anybody would, you start to get worried at a certain point. Karen calls friends, Carrie Roberts, one of John's friends, and his wife happens to be a nurse. She's calling to see if they knew where he was, if he was in the hospital that she worked at. Carrie Roberts, which is a really close friend of John O'Keefe's, has children, or a son that's similar age to, I think, the boy. And so Karen is calling frantically. I think everybody knows the gist of this. However, she one day decides to, not her, but the Massachusetts State Police charge her with manslaughter, saying that she backed into him when he got out of the SUV, the Lexus SUV that she was driving, and he was left for dead, where he died of his injuries and hypothermia. So her charge gets upgraded to murder by a grand jury in June of 2022, and we're coming to find out that all of that grand jury testimony was malarkey, hogwash, because they lied, allegedly. about the details of that case, upgrading her charge to murder. And little does everyone really know how impactful Jim McCabe, one of the persons that Karen Reed called, who is Brian Albert, that Boston cop. Yeah, his wife is her sister, Nicole. So Jen McCabe and Nicole are sisters. And there's a lot of funny business going on with calls, deleted calls, butt dials, if you will, that I'm sure everyone pretty much knows about or has heard about in the news. And then we have Carrie Roberts, who Karen Reed rode with in Carrie Roberts' SUV with Jim McCabe to then find John O'Keefe laying in the snow at 34 Fairview. So we all have probably at least have the summarized version of that out there. However, some of my viewers only hear it because I talk about it all the time, and you might be new. So definitely go check out these creators if you want in-depth coverage of the Karen Reed case if you're new. First of all, The Glare, LTL Media, Turtle Boy, aka Aiden Carney, who has been through the ringer in this case. He is the one that exposed everything. I have mad respect for him. A lot of people don't appreciate his methods of madness. I do, absolutely do, and will support him in his endeavors, not only in the Karen Reed case, but going forward. He is rough around the edges, if you will. A lot of people hate him so much that they just want to go against Karen Reed just to get at Turtle Boy. And he has been absolutely framed for being charged because he is the one that exposed the corruption in Canton, Massachusetts, and the Massachusetts State Police. So however you feel about him, doesn't matter. At this point, I think he has earned being a little rough around the edges because of what he's been through in this case specifically. Doesn't really matter how you feel about how you should talk, speak. We are not First Amendment auditors. We don't stifle people's voices around here. So that's just how I feel about it on this channel. I'm going to say hi to people in the chat. Julia T, I have a burning question. I love Julia T's burning questions. If Karen didn't want to go to Albert's party because she didn't feel well, why repeatedly push the party at the pizza shop? I have never heard, even in the latest interview that she did with Dateline NBC, I think it aired about a week ago, last Saturday. I never heard her say that she ever wanted to go get pizza. I haven't personally heard that. If you have, let me know. That was a story that Jen McCabe and a few other witnesses testified to. I think Chris Albert said, no, we're not doing that because he's the one who owns D&E Pizza. And I think that is maybe something to consider on their side of things. Why would she want to, first of all, go to D&E Pizza? John just went there with his adopted son earlier that day and spoke to Chris Albert. And that's how they got pretty much, at least John got invited to go hang out at the Waterfall Bar where they had been last, meeting Karen Reed and everybody that was there, and John O'Keefe. I don't think that happened. And if it did, it might have been her being nice. I don't know. Karen Reed needs to maybe answer that one day. I've never really heard her have clarify on that. But it is interesting that I think one of the Cola-Keithis witnesses who said that John and Karen were getting along great. There was no arguments. There was no weirdness. Everybody got along that night. Said something about Jen McCabe saying, I have a surprise for you, Karen. Come with me. Basically getting Karen away as they were leaving the bar and headed out. That is the question I would like for Jen McCabe to own up to. What surprise are you speaking of? Especially after that happened when Brian Higgins, the ATF agent, one of the witnesses at the home, who is Brian Albert's friend and chief of police Canton, Mass, his bestie, who destroyed his phone and put it in the dump, broke the SIM. Why? What was the fight? What happened before that? So those are the questions I have, but I wish I could answer that, Julie. I don't know. Good question, though. So, hey, Gma, OG Mod, my ride or die. Good to see you, love. Hey, Nico, good to see you. Who else we got? Probably not a lot of people. I'm not in the algorithm right now. Oh, Mr. Eve was in here. I'm sorry, Mr. Eve. Hi. He works hard for his money. That's for sure. That's what he's doing right now. So, Julia T says, can we get them on here to answer those pesky questions? If I could get anybody on this channel to answer questions on either side, that would be lovely. If I had a choice on who to talk to or ask questions, it would probably be Jen McCabe. Because she wouldn't be pulling that shit she did on in the trial with Alan Jackson. I can guarantee you that. She's got me up. Why do I have a ducky? Why are there duckies on my screen? Why is there a Sneaky Pete Ducky PI? We'll get to that. We'll get to that. It's kind of hilarious. So you saw, if you didn't know, I had a trailer on my live about the duckies. And basically there is a man in Canton who wrote, Colin did it. Colin is the son of Chris Albert, you know, the D&E pizza guy. That would be Brian Albert's nephew, the Boston police officer where John O'Keefe's body was found in his front yard. So Colin was hidden away from the case entirely. Now, the lead investigator of the Massachusetts State Police, Trooper Proctor, they have familial ties, absolutely 100%. It's been proven by Turtle Boy specifically, even though they deny it. It's a fact. It's a fact, Jack, that they knew each other. They go back a long way, the McCabe specifically. So they know each other. They can't lie. You can't, come on now. We all know it. So anyway, this business owner, I think he runs a fence business in Canton. He wrote, Colin did it underneath a ducky and put it on a bench in front of D&E Pizza. And Chris Albert said, ouch, ouch, my feelings. That really hurts me. I feel intimidated by this person because I'm a witness. I'm a witness in this case and you're harassing me. Even though it wasn't anything remotely to do with him, except for that his son is named. First of all, Colin did what? Show me on the ducky where it hurt you, Chris Albert. Because if it were to hurt anyone, their feelings, it would have been Colin, right? Yes, I know he's your son, but legally, I don't know if you have any leg to stand on. Well, not in Massachusetts, because Massachusetts has a throwed-off law, witness intimidation law, where it's very vague and you can kind of scoot through and scoot by with that liberal, feelings hurt. So you say something and somebody is a witness in a case, they gonna put you in the pokey. Obviously, they did that to Turtle Boy because he has lots of felony witness intimidation charges, which will be, I'm sure, dropped soon. Hence the Betero letter bombshells that I have right here. And we'll get into that. These Betero bombshells are hands down the best written and thorough, detailed letters in court proceedings that I've ever heard of, ever. Everybody has gone live. Melanie Little, for sure. She's great. She's been an advocate for Karen Reed and covering it on her case. So go check her stuff out if you haven't. But man, those letters are rich because it shows the corruption and how people within the system, in the governmental system of crime, criminal justice system, the judicial justice system work together to do corrupt shit, especially in Massachusetts. The mob outside of New York, that mob mentality. And don't be surprised if you hear one day that there is a RICO charge. Everybody's been talking about the RICO charge with Bullhorn Betty and all of that stuff. I'm not going to go into that. I do not even want to go over that stuff. It's been covered enough. But don't be surprised if you see a RICO charge come down on some folks very soon, because collusion is real. It happens in authoritative governmental entities, especially in investigations. It happens. We have a history of it. There's a whole article, or articles rather, on the DOJ website listing tons of stuff about corruption. It happens. Absolutely. So Sneaky Pete is my little ducky that I got from a trade show in Fort Worth, Texas, where I live. And so we go to these warbird plane shows and stuff like that, because that's the business that we're in, is repairing planes, aerocraft. And so when this happened with the duckies, where Colin did it, was written under one of them and placed in front of D&E Pizza, that hurt Chris Albert's feelings and got this poor man, business owner who pays his taxes, charged with witness intimidation. I think 2 counts. 2 counts. The links that these folks will go in the Karen Read case, meaning the ones trying to cover up, in my opinion, John O'Keefe's murder, their hand in it, and getting away with it, and framing Karen Read and everyone who supports her. This is wild. I've never seen this in the history of covering true crime or reviewing true crime in the last 15 years of my life. I've never seen such egregious behavior by law enforcement officials and their superiors, and the state government trying to assist in not looking bad because they were outed with bad behavior and doing really horrible stuff. Sandra Birchmore case, the young lady who was murdered, Matthew Farwell, who was a Stoughton police officer who was having, who had groomed her like the predator that he is from the age of 13 onward in a police program that they offered, where, you ride around with them and learn the ins and outs of being a police officer, groomed her, raped her throughout their time together, and then murdered her after she became pregnant as an adult. And the same people who did the horrible manipulation of data in Karen Read's case did it in the Sandra Birchmore case, because, of course, Matthew Farwell was associated with them in some way, whether it be law enforcement or in the past. So, yeah, corruption exists. And in this case, in this particular case, there is no looking the other way on it. It's there. And unfortunately for Aiden Carney, aka Turtle Boy, he is literally bearing the brunt of all of the backlash of them being outed. It's placed on his feet and everyone that supports him through supporting Karen Read and getting justice for John O'Keefe. It's very unfortunate. Yes, please click the like button for Eve, if you would. Thank you. Yeah, taking a break from the Quentin Simon case. It's been very hard and difficult to not yell through my screen at Leilani Simon, burn, baby, burn, if I had it my way. Are they going for the death penalty? I wasn't sure if they were trying to do that with Leilani. I wish. And I meant that. I said what I said. Don't harm our babies, and you wouldn't get those kind of comments, right? So, the ducky thing. I think that man should have never been charged, obviously, but let's look and see what Turtle Boy's article says because I want to move on to the testimony of Karen Reed, the trial, and the appeals process to drop the 2 charges of murder and the 3rd charge of manslaughter, because the jury unanimously reported after the mistrial was flagged that, we were unanimous in the proceedings that 1 and 3 are out. But the judge, who knows a few folks around the case, not benefiting Karen Reed at all, denied that motion. So Karen Reed's defense team hired a lawyer to help with the appeals process. And guess what? I'm so excited. You get to see the argument on both sides, and I cannot wait. I will be streaming that. Bet your bottom dollar I will be streaming that, because I love hearing, and as boring as I am and as boring as it sounds, I love hearing appeals arguments, because I've always wanted to be a lawyer. Maybe I'll still do that. But it's amazing to me what they decide on and what they choose not to in the Supreme Court. It's always amazed me how somebody who is absolutely guilty of a crime, it could be overturned because of one mistake or one wording in the law. It just fascinates me that it works that way. So Margaret says, agree, Eve, leave our babies alone. Don't believe it's DP case, but should be. Absolutely. Okay, thank you for answering me, because I couldn't remember if that was on the table. I think I remember now that I'm thinking about it. They took that off, but they tried, and then they were like, we'll just put her away for life, which is fine by me. So let me pull up Turtle Boy's article. Forgive me if the screen jumps, because his website, it sucks, Turtle. It sucks ass. The ads are ridiculous. I know that you can get those off if you pay some money. But I'm busy donating here and there when I can to your defense fund, so I can't be all up paying everything that he has, but he does cover everything so fucking amazing. I wish that I had that time to do the same thing that he does, kind of reporting. He is a journalist, but reporting in depth and in detail like he does. But that website, man, I'm going to be honest, it's garbage. Not the stuff on it, not the person who wrote it, but the website sucks. It does. I said what I said. But it is a smart tactic to get that, if you subscribe to Turtle Boy, all of that goes away, your inconveniences. It's brilliant. Excuse me. All right. Canton Cover Up, part 428. Is this the one that was? No, that was yesterday. Sorry. Should be 429. Here we go. All right. Top 15 reason it's reasonable to believe that Colin did it. Now, I agree. I'm not going to go through everything that he reviews. He actually did that last night. But this is the man who was charged with witness intimidation for the Duckies. I know. Sneaky Pete, it's ridiculous. Oh, trash. This website is trash. The format sucks. So his name is Rich and is the owner of Canton Fence, and was charged with 2 counts of felony witness intimidation, 2 counts of harassment, I forgot about this, and 6 counts of littering. After the Canton Police Department conducted a 6-month investigation, please go watch Turtle Boy's coverage on that. I put a clip on that video that you saw at the beginning on the trailer. Hilarious. 6-month investigation into who was behind the dropping of the rubber duckies at various locations in town. You know, people would love that stuff in Texas. Like, we're goofy like that down here. Nobody would be like, I feel intimidated. Help. Ouch, my feelings. Call the cops. Unless you're from Austin. But anywho, the rubber duckies themselves were not illegal. It was what he wrote on the bottom that Colin did it that got him charged. So the detective, Tim Taylor, claims that his boss, Selectman Chris Jailbird Albert, experienced emotional harm when he found these duckies on Washington Street. I have said from the very beginning that I have no proof Colin did it. Murdered John O'Keefe. However, it's not illegal to say that. Absolutely. Why do we think in this day and age that you can't say things like, I believe Leilani had something to do with her child, for instance, or I believe that Richard Allen is not the bridge guy, whatever it may be. This is just an example. Why do we have this cancel culture mentality continue this way? Like, especially in more liberal states like Massachusetts. Like, what is there a connection there? I don't know. Maybe. By the way, everybody vote. Make sure you vote. So, freedom of speech, right? Of course, there are limits. We all know that. But I don't see anywhere in my moral compass where looking at a rubber ducky that was placed in front of my business where they're saying that my son murdered someone. Yeah, it would hurt my feelings. I'd be pretty pissed off, but I'm not going to go and call the cops because my feelings are hurt. I might make a report maybe if they were actually damaging my property or just to be on the safe side. But to actually be charged, is beyond my comprehension. And they're wasting their own resources that they should be using elsewhere, especially there. Okay. Yay, Gma voted good. I tried to vote today and then I was going to run out of time, so I had to leave, but I was still outside the library where I'm supposed to vote. So yes, Mr. Eve, I will be back to go vote when it's not so busy. So, you know, there's obvious reasons why some people like Rich felt Colin Albert was either involved or did it. Because look at the knuckles. He had no explanation for why those knuckles, well, he had an explanation. It wasn't a good one in trial. He braced himself, guys. I have never heard of this before. I've never braced myself when falling back, slipping on ice, for instance, with my knuckles. Never. I've always opened my hand up and sprained my wrist to shit and had to wear a brace for like a week or two. Like that's that, or I broke it. I voted for the felon. Ditto. I did. You know, sometimes you've got to vote for who you feel is on your level of retribution, because those charges were dropped. Corruption in the prosecution of Trump. So anyway, we're not going to go there. He was never questioned by police until July of 2023. Correct. That is correct. And they found out that he was in the house. He was in the home. And I don't know if you've seen this, but the screenshot where Allie McCabe, Jennifer McCabe, her daughter comes and picks up Colin at allegedly 12:30 hogwash. We all know that the Life 360 data that Yannetti outed in trial, it cannot exist with the times that, or was it 12:10, excuse me, on the screenshot. Come get me. Whatever. Okay, so we're going to skip all that. I mean, we really don't need to go into detail because he was never questioned by police a year and a half, almost a year and a half later. That's doo-doo. Scroll down. This is important. The FBI stopped by his dorm room in 2023 to speak to him because he was going to get sequestered to a grand jury, not the one for the state, a federal grand jury, to see about the testimony for whatever reason. We don't really know the nitty gritty because we can't see the grand jury testimony, but we know that it exists and that there is a federal investigation into the investigation and prosecution of John O'Keefe and Karen Read's case. We know this. Specifically, the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office, who handled prosecuting Karen Read. They are in trouble. I promise you that. AKA, look out for that RICO charge, potentially, maybe, perhaps, allegedly. So he drops out of school after this happens, like, oh, shit. Oh, no. We got to get our shit together. We got to get our story straight. We got to get our business in line. Another important thing that I do want to mention is Colin driving a Ford Edge. So there was we'll get to the testimony. This is what I kind of wanted to wait on and not get into detail. But Colin drove a Ford Edge. There was a Ford Edge seen by the snowplow driver at 2:30 in the morning, or was it 3:30? One of those, where John O'Keefe was found, like right beside where he's found on the side of the road. And there was no body there. Literally, John's body was not there, was not seen. He said he would have saw it if it was there. But there was definitely a Ford Edge there. Chris Albert's wife, Julie, definitely owned the Ford Edge that Colin drove. So, who drove the Ford Edge and blocked the view from the snowplow driver? Because that's very weird that John O'Keefe is then seen at 6:04 when the three, Karen, Carrie, and Jen, arrive at 34 Fairview, right? Excuse me. 1 second. I have a coughing fit. Sorry, guys. Okay, we're back. All right. So a Ford Edge was seen by Lucky, parked outside of Brian Albert's house at 3 a.m. That's right, 3 a.m. And I actually put this out on Twitter, I think for the first time, that we see Lucky, the snowplow driver, coming down Cedar Crest on the dash cam of Seraph's dash cam, the one that kind of captures everything, right? We see the other police officer coming down the road, and he's passing up Cedar Crest, and we see them cross paths, and then that police officer takes a left onto Fairview and then arrives. Okay, I put that out there for the world to see. I believe it to be Lucky. I really do. Yes, there was by the yard contractors that come out and kind of help assist the plow drivers if it's really bad, which it was a blizzard. But I don't believe it to be them. I really don't. So, because the testimony of Brian or Lucky Laugren is just lining up with that footage that I found or noticed that he was in the background driving. So anyway, despite knowing that Colin Albert drove a Ford Edge, investigators never questioned Colin about this. They never even questioned Lucky until Turtle Boy interviewed him rather. And when that article came out that he did of what Lucky said, then Yuri Bukaki and Proctor Trooper came to question him. And really what they wanted to know was, what did you see? Was there any indication that there was a footsteps around the SUV, and then going straight into Turtle Boy? What did he say? Did you know that he was recording you without your knowledge? You know, trying to set him up because they were pissed that they were outed. Boy, I tell you what, don't get outed as a police officer, because the rage that you have and the vindication you feel you deserve with 19 counts of, or 16, 19, whatever counts of felony witness intimidation will come down on you. Ridiculous. So here's Colin Albert. Let's just play this little
Yo, your advantage
gem.
boys. I will beat all your asses. I promise you, I will fuck you all up. Pull up, bitch.
Apparently that was a hockey team, a rival from another area in Canton, another town rather, that he was talking to. Clearly,
You're a bitch,
drunk.
bro. Fuck you.
Yeah, fuck you, you pussy.
Clean cold, boy. You be knocked out. KO. Bang, bang.
Bang, bang. Have y'all heard that
You're a
song?
bitch, bro.
Well, no, you're a bitch, bro. That's what I think. And I said what I said. What do you think, Seeky Pete? Oh, yeah. I agree. So he says that he doesn't fight in his testimony, but he obviously does, and he's really bad at fighting. I mean, talk about duck, dip, dive, and dodge. That's Colin, but he gets his dome piece rocked a few times in there. Yeah, just a big fat liar. Great parenting skills, Chris Albert, Julie, and a young teenager with the middle fingers up. Great parenting. Here is the fake screenshot that we all agree with on Twitter, at least, the free Karen readers. Definitely here, right? Because where's the January 29th transition with the date? There isn't any. So this is definitely faked. Where Allie says, yeah, I got a text from Colin at come get me. And then she arrives at what? 12:10. Bullshit. I think that she arrived at 12:24. And that would be literally the minute of and after John O'Keefe stops moving on his phone, on his Apple Health and data and all that stuff. That's what I think. Yeah, right, Mr. Eve, stand up, dude. Yeah. Oh, by the way, this is very important. Colin Albert, at 12:33 a.m., got a missed call from one of their, excuse me, let me rephrase that. I messed up. Tom Beatty, who was threatened. He's a Canton resident who knows Jim McCabe and all of those people, and John. His daughter got a call from Colin at 12:33 a.m., but missed it. And then the next morning she calls him to say, hey, everything okay? Do you need anything? And he goes, no. Or maybe she called back right after that. I'm not really sure. But he said, never mind, to her. He was looking for a ride. From my understanding. So let's look and see exactly what Turtle Boy says. Aaron Beatty, yeah. So Aaron Beatty called him back the next day. Okay, I was right. And he said, never mind. So we believe that the call at 12:33 was him looking for a ride, because I don't think they live very far away from 34 Fairview. And here's her dad, Aaron's dad, Thomas, saying, this is some doo-doo. I'm getting threatened. I'm physically and mentally tougher than you'll ever be. So set your sights on my child. Wrong move. When will your childish behavior end? So they were threatening her daughter to shut the hell up. Jim McCabe specifically actually intimidated her, said some pretty gross things. And yeah, Chris Albert, I think, didn't he do a cease and desist on Thomas Beatty? I'm pretty sure. Anyway, they didn't want Thomas and Aaron talking. That's for sure. They wanted to protect Colin at all costs. Now, a lot of people think that that makes Colin like the number one suspect in their eyes. I just feel like Colin witnessed something go down between Brian Higgins and John O'Keefe and Brian Albert. I think he witnessed it. I think that they were all aware of what was about to happen to John O'Keefe, but it went way too far with his injuries. I think they were going to roughen him up, and that was that, but he ended up dying. That's what I think. What's the story with Richie the plumber? Oh, yeah, I got to research that. I have some notes on that. So Colin lied about pointless things. He absolutely did. We know that the 1210 screenshot is bullshit. Colin absolutely knew the Proctors was in one of their weddings, I believe. Was it Jill Collins? Hold on. Yeah, Michael Proctor's sister's wedding. Yep. So they know each other. We all know this. Come on. Stop it. Stop the cat. Stop the cat. So he was protected. I really hope that Colin did not assist in the murder of John O'Keefe directly. I really hope not, because, dude, your whole life is ruined over, because the feds will figure it out. It'll be figured out potentially, but you're never going to live this down until that happens, like the real culprit, or that you're exposed. Like, it's never going to go away. You will always be known as the person who potentially murdered John O'Keefe. And that sucks for a young dummy whose parents did not do the right thing and tell the truth, because they're covering for each other. So off with that, let's go into the testimony that I think is important of three things. And I will die on this hill. And ironically, it has nothing to do with the Lexus data, because the Lexus data that allegedly shows Karen Reed backing into John O'Keefe at, 62 feet at 24 point something miles an hour. Absolute absurdity. Somebody would have heard it. There's ring cameras in the neighborhood. Somebody would have caught that, but it never happened. So let me pull this up. Give me just a quick second. Y'all stay tight. Sit tight. The first thing that we're going to go over, sorry, I'm having like really bad allergies today, is data clause. Mr. Rick Green, who did the forensic data extraction review and looking at the artifacts of that extraction that Garino did. Actually, I think it was O'Keefe and then Garino, but whatever. We're going to go over specifically what he says that proves, in my mind, without a shadow of a doubt, that Jennifer McCabe should be a third-party culprit in the aiding and cover-up of the murder of John O'Keefe because of her Google search of House Long to Die in Cold at 2:27 a.m., way before John O'Keefe was found by the three ladies. Who Googles that? Even if somebody were to ask you, that's her defense, by the way, Jennifer McCabe, to Google it, because she did Google it at 6:23 and 6:24, and that was her excuse for why the Google search at 2:27 was there, because of some error in the data, right? No, she tried to cover her tracks, but she messed up because she misspelled House Long to Die in Cold twice. So she's an idiot. Karen Reed trial. And if I could throw hands with somebody, anybody, on this planet, as of right now, it would definitely be Jennifer McCabe. I'm just saying I'm just saying that's what I want. Not that I will, but I'd definitely like to. Mm-hmm.
We're a digital investigation.
All right. So this again is Data Claus, because he reminds me of Santa Claus without the beard. So we call him Data Claus. Excuse me. Mr. Eve says, by the way, we miss you all and thank you for your continued support. Yes, and I don't know why my webcam isn't working. It was working before I started going on. I don't know. I think I got it to work. Hi, everybody. Awesome. I have to edit the settings because it's going to bother me. So I'm just going to take it off, but I do exist. I'm not a lizard person. I'm not a chameleon.
Firm.
All right. Let's listen to specifically what the prosecution claims is the reasoning for the Google search not being at 227. It was just recorded that way in the DB WAL file, suspended state Safari tab, meaning when she Googled this, their claim is that it was actually Hakama sports scoring, whatever. It was the previous search that she did way before the 623 search, and it just captured incorrectly, blah, 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 the Google search. So they're trying to say that there's a reasoning for it, and she didn't actually Google How Long to Die and call it 227. And Rick Green's going to say, you're funny, and here's how I know this. This is very, very important testimony, because let's just say the feds say, without a doubt, 100%, we know that you Googled this. It's a wrap. You're Googling How Long to Die in Cold, or How Long to Die of Hypothermia, which is what he died, it assisted in his death, right? I mean, come on. It's the cause of death is hypothermia and his injuries, blunt force injuries. So there's a connection there, isn't there, Jen McCabe? So let's say the feds prove without a shadow of a doubt guilty that you searched that, then there is no way in hell that she is not involved in his actual death. She absolutely is involved, which exonerates Karen Read. No matter what other data there is out there right now, it doesn't matter. It's over. It's a wrap. It's just going to help the fact that corrupt troopers and people from Canton assisted in the corruption. It's just helping her cause. So I think that this is number one important. And not to mention that I just really think that Jennifer McCabe is the most vile human being that I've ever seen. And I've seen some shit on here. I've seen some really awful witnesses, and I've seen some really awful people being charged. And she is by far, hands down, the worst I've ever seen. And I want to see justice. I want her to have handcuffs and put in the pokey forever for what she helped do to not only Karen and John, but everyone around them who knows that she had something to do with this.
Determine as a result of your examination approximately when his phone arrived at 34 Fairview Road according to the location data.
Yes, sir.
And how did you do it?
Sure. Well, I say we, so that's proverbial we. I extracted the location cache data, which is stored in the on your phone, and it's in the certain location. We exported that out, and then we use a tool called CellHawk, and we import it in there so it can take literally, thousands of data points and automate that process to specific GPS locations, and just as importantly, the range of accuracy that location is reporting.
Okay. So according to the process that
Me too,
you
Margaret. Sarah Levinson.
underwent, what time did the location data indicate that John O'Keefe's phone arrived at 34 Fairview on January 29th of 2022?
So the first one right to the driveway was at 12:24 and 28 seconds.
12:24 and 28 seconds. Now, right there is a very important time because as I was rewatching this testimony just yesterday, I noticed that when the defense put up the data on the screen for the jurors to see, and they zoom in, the camera zooms in on it. Interestingly enough, the 12:24 timestamp in regards to Colin Albert kind of sneaks up on Jim McCabe's phone. I will show you this here in a second. This is really interesting. Very interesting because, again, they extracted data from Life 360 in regards to Allie McCabe, who picked up Colin Albert from Jim McCabe's phone because she is the parent that holds that account to track Allie, her daughter. It was very interesting to see that there was a little 12:24 timestamp, and I'll show you it. And I want you to tell me what you think about what he just said, 12:24:18, and so on.
12:24 and 28.
Correct.
Now, if I asked you to filter John O'Keefe's location data within an accuracy of 3 feet using CellHawk, could you try to do that?
Yes, sir.
In fact, did you try to do it?
I did.
When?
Last night.
Who asked you to do that?
You did, sir.
So charming.
If I may approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
No objection. No objection.
So you need to give it to Madam Court Reporter?
I'm all flustered. Sorry. About what you learned.
Each circle representing,
That was going to be right?
that's what studies have shown.
All right.
I still see good enough to do the laser one. I'm sorry, which record is this you're looking at?
Page 2, record number 2.
Okay, yes, I have that in front of me.
Okay. What does...
Okay, I'm going
record
to pause this. My timestamps are wrong. Sorry about that. I had to find it. So, John O'Keefe's health data. We do need to go over this because it coincides with Jim. You want to coincide what happened during the time of John O'Keefe and anyone else, right? To see who was around him, etc. What were the differences or similarities? And this is the 1/29/2022 at 12:21 to 12:24 a.m., which is 3 minutes and 19 seconds. Again, this is his Apple Health data from his iPhone. And that window of time right here is more than likely when he was attacked, because he does not move after a certain point of time after this until he's found. Okay. This is also the time where he goes up and down, I'm assuming 3 flights of stairs, 3 levels. Okay. There's a basement at 34 Fairview. There's a first floor, and then there's a second floor up top. So he could have gone up, down, down, up. We don't know. He could have been punched down a flight of stairs, like the basement where the bulkhead is. Maybe. Yeah, down, up, down, right. Or, yeah, basement. I don't know. Or upstairs to the very top, coming through the front door, back down to the first floor, and then down to the basement where he sits and unfortunately suffers. We don't know.
To show on page 2 of John's Apple Health data.
Sure. So this is the number of meters. It's listed as 87.74, and the time is listed between 12:21 and 10 seconds. And there's a milliseconds after that, but I'll just round it off to the second if you don't mind. So 12:21 and 10 seconds to 12:24 and 22 seconds.
Okay. And you said that it showed 87 meters traveled during that time period?
Correct.
And with regard to that same time period, 12:21 and 10 seconds and 12:24 and 22 seconds, please turn to page 5. And Mr. Bates, if you would zoom in on record number 2.
I have that.
Okay. What does record number 2 reflect?
Again, it's the same time period, and the steps taken is recorded as 80 steps.
Okay, and you said the same time period?
80 steps taken in 3 minutes. So he was definitely walking around somewhere, wasn't he? And it definitely wasn't around Karen Reed's vehicle because Julie Nagel, who is a witness, called her brother Ryan Nagel over to come get her at 12 o'clock. This is very important to me, by the way, because the exchange between Brian Higgins at the bar and John O'Keefe was not a friendly one. Chris Albert grabs Brian Higgins' arm, being like, bro, what are you doing? Shut the hell up. Whatever. There was a call right after that happened at 12 o'clock for Julie Nagel to get her brother over to the house. And then she goes, never mind. I don't need a ride. You know what? I'm going to stay a little bit longer. I don't buy it. I absolutely 100% do not buy the story that Ryan Nagel gave on that front. I believe that his testimony that he didn't see John O'Keefe in the vehicle when he moves off and Karen Reed is still sitting there waiting. I don't. I don't believe that he was called over to get a ride. I think that he was called over because shit was going down, a fight was going to happen, and Ryan was going to be the one to either help or help somebody get away. That's just me. Maybe there was a drug run. Maybe he had the cocaine. That seems to be something that they partake in over there. Allegedly. Okay, allegedly, don't come at me. So I feel in my bones that Ryan Nagel was there for other reasons than to just pick Julie up because she changes her mind and goes back inside. Maybe Ryan was the watchman. I think that the plan was kind of started a little bit earlier than John O'Keefe just walking in and getting sucker punched and things go south. I think that when Brian Higgins threw his little hissy fit at John in the bar, which we will be watching the Microdots enhanced version. You guys, if you haven't seen it, holy shit. It's amazing. It shows the actual interaction that we've never seen in trial. But anyway, 80 steps between 3 minutes. Wouldn't that show where he was? In that 300 feet range, 30 feet range from Apple Health and location from your phone? I would think so. And Julia, would it record up if it was walking up a hill? No, I think that the elevation in the Apple Health data would show that. Because I looked at the Apple Health, like the actual Apple company who did their own studies, right? The accuracy on these things are really damn good. Top-notch stuff. There are variants, but it's very few and far and in between. Steps are measured by, the change in heartbeat. Whenever you're walking up a stairs, the thump, thump, thump. Like, it knows that you're walking, not that you're sitting in a very bumpy car or that a step is a hill. Very advanced stuff.
So again, 12:21:10 to 12:24:22, correct?
Correct.
All right, now I'd like to direct your attention to page 4, record number 1. Thanks, Mr. Bates. You could post that. When you're ready, Mr. Green, if you could tell the jury what that reflects.
Sure. So this indicates 3 sets of floors. That represents elevation change, so it doesn't indicate to us up or down, but 3 steps. And the time period for that is 12/22/14 to 12/24/37.
Okay, did you say 12/21/14 to 12/22, I'm sorry, 12/24/37?
Yeah, 12/22/14 to 12/47/37.
I see. And with regard to all of this data, the 80 steps and the 3 flights of stairs that you mentioned, is it possible to pinpoint where within the time frame that's given those steps or flights of stairs were ascended or descended?
No, the most granular we can get is the time period, and it doesn't signify as any more likely at the beginning of the time period than at the end of the time period than at some time in the middle. And if you think logically, like distance traveled, that doesn't happen at a split moment. It happens over a period of time. So time is a factor in that equation, and this is how the Apple.
So 80 steps, 3 sets of 3 floors within that time frame. He wasn't dancing around going up and down a set of hills outside of Karen Reed's Lexus. He wasn't flown back by her hitting him with her tail light. I mean, this, in my mind, is, if I were a juror sitting there listening and watching this, I'd be like, okay, where was he? And if you can't tell me exactly where was he, show the range on the screen for the jurors and then let them decide what makes more sense, right? Like, that would be, in my opinion, for the defense, if she's going to be retried with all 3 counts, like, hone in on this data. This data is so freaking important.
Records that data. You got to look at the time overall.
Okay, so you don't know if the steps are bunched up toward the beginning or toward the end or more evenly spread out?
No, I would not be able to tell you that.
Now, we've discussed the Apple Health data. I want to go back for a second to talk about the location data on the iPhone. Does that data that you've already talked about in terms of the arrival time that it gave for John O'Keefe's phone at 34 Fairview, does that arrival time fall within or outside the range of 12:21 and 10 seconds, or 12:21 and 10 seconds and 12:24 and 37 seconds?
Well, that certainly indicates an overlap, but the health data is ending after the arrival.
Now, I'd like to discuss with you the concept of clocks used by apps on an iPhone.
Sure.
Are you aware of the 3 different clocks that are used by iPhone apps?
I am. And it's giving us...
So I looked at that, the clocks. So there's different clocks within, there's hex time, there's, different apps have their own clock. There's many different ways to get exact timings on certain things, depending on what's going on within the iPhone and the network it's connected to, the satellites are aligning, things like that. It's complex, but there's a way, if you wanted to dig down and get the actual time of an event, there's multiple different ways that you can get it, or at least search the artifacts to find it. And apparently, from what I'm understanding, the hex and Apple CoAccord data is the jam, the business on finding exact moments of when something happens. But we're going to skip over that. And here's what we need to listen to.
So in this particular case, I had reprocessed the data with the newest version of the Axiom forensic program. It's similar to Cellbrite. Their competitors are Cellbrite, and we use both programs. And this newest version had a feature in there where you can filter for the Waze application. And again, just following up and seeing how this functioned, we filtered for the Waze application. And for the first time, we saw this monotonic timestamp being related to the Waze application.
Okay. I want to show you Exhibit 640. If I may approach, Your Honor. I've placed Exhibit 640 before you, sir. Do you recognize what that is?
Yes, sir.
What is it?
So this is a screenshot from the Magnet Axiom program I was referring to. It's the 8.1, actually it looks like 4287, but...
Keep your voice up, sir.
I'm sorry, yeah. So it's the newest version of the program, and we have it filtered for the Waze app, and it's giving us the timestamps associated with it.
Okay. With the court's permission, may I publish that?
Okay.
There we go.
Okay. They were just talking about the Waze data applications. Like I said before, when Allie McCabe was crossed by Yannetti, they talk about the Waze application and how that operates for her. They got it from Jim McCabe's phone because obviously she's the parent and account holder. I know it's kind of hard to see. However, right here is where I found the little screenshot of 1224.
Small. I can't read it.
Okay, thank you. I'll go off of this one.
Damn, I went too far. Hold on. Hold on a second. We're gonna get it. All right. So I took a screenshot of this and I zoomed it up and tried to clean it up. And right down here, I know it's hard to see, but it's a knowledge database for Waze. And there's a timestamp here of 12:24 and 28 seconds showing that when it pertains to Allie. And then the next line, the Apple data from her has some shit on it. It doesn't matter. But what's happening in the background is that it is showing Allie at the house, arriving at 34. Unless it's too blurry for me to understand and maybe it's a 44, it looks like 24. So this is alleged. This is just me. I'll have to find that damn screenshot. I have a billion of them. But I think that she was there the moment either she was leaving her house to come get Colin at 12:24 or she was arriving. It actually makes more sense if she was leaving at 12:24. So that would mean that Colin was calling her to come get him. And that's not 12:10 like the screenshot says. So it would just prove, and here's Jen McKay, by the way, that's her phone. This is the data. So keep that in mind. Just keep that in mind that maybe that'll come out to light soon.
I'll go off of this one.
There we go. With regard to what we are looking at there on that part of the screen, what are we looking at, Mr. Green?
Okay, so this is listing details of this particular artifact, and you can see that this is bundled. The com.waze.iphone, that's a standard bundle type name where it always starts with com. And then the application reference.
And what does that mean? It says it's highlighted on the screen, com.waze.iphone. What does that mean that we're in right now?
Yeah. Well,
So, excuse me, I believe this is John's phone data. I believe.
this is an artifact specifically related to the Waze program.
Waze app.
Yes, sir.
All right, go on.
Okay, and we can see here our entry for the monotonic time, the baseband time, and the display time.
And what did you notice about the relationship of the three of those?
Certainly. Well, most noticeable about this, the monotonic is running a little over 3 minutes ahead of the display. So I think it's 3 minutes. This is another entry from John O'Keefe's
Okay, so we're going to move on to that.
cell phone data.
To this, rather.
And this records 25.46 meters occurring between 12:31:56 and 12:32:16.
Okay.
So, John's health data, distance in meters, 25. Between 12:31 and 12:32, there's some movement here for, 30 seconds? Was John convulsing at this point? Hence the puke that was found on his clothing, vomit. And the witnesses stated that, I believe Karen said, somebody said that they saw vomit. I think it was either Flametti and the EMS team. Either way, definitely vomit on his clothing. So 12:31 to 12:32, he starts moving again. What happened? Was this the actual time he got knocked out after the arguments? Or was it 12:21 to 12:24 that things were going down with the 3 levels of stairs? It's very hard to know. It's very hard to come up with scenarios in your head of how this all went down. Was this the point of impact in this half of a minute, 30 seconds? But the distance traveled, was he running away? I don't know. This bothers the hell out of me. It really does. Because I don't know how to decipher his health data, because first of all, I'm not a professional. Who the hell am I, right? But something went down, guys. Something absolutely happened at 12:21 to 12:24, and then again, all of a sudden, his health data triggers this and records this. So what happened?
And directing your attention to page 5, record number 3, if you could tell the jury what that shows. If we could have that displayed as well, Mr. Fitz.
Certainly. So this is directly related to the distance, and this is recording 36 steps, and it's the same time period, 12:31:56 to 12:32:16.
Okay. So we have
To dying cold, and it's actually 12:31:56.109 a.m. and 12:32:16.507 a.m.
okay. All right. So now I'd like to switch, if we can, to
Okay, the moment we've all been waiting for, the how long to die in cold, and I'm going to actually have to end up cutting this short because I'm long-winded as hell, and I got to go get my little soon. But this is the how long to die in cold. Number one, in my opinion, hands down, the best indicator of Karen Read being not only framed, but innocent of any wrongdoing in the death of John O'Keefe. This is my number one.
Jennifer McCabe's phone and your analysis of that. During the course of your examination, when you reviewed data from her phone, did you find a particular artifact of interest?
Yes, I did.
What did you find?
We found a Google search that happened. First of all, the search was how long to die in cold, and it happened at or before 2:27 a.m.
All right. Where was that search found?
At or before 2:27 and 40 seconds a.m. At or before. So what was going on before that time? She opens her phone at, I believe it was 2:21 in the morning. It shows her walking up her steps, or they find out that that's what she was doing. Her they go through the data here in just a second in detail. The butt dial of Brian Higgins and Brian Albert at 2:22 in the morning. Very ironic that she opens her phone, Jen McCabe, at 2:21. The butt dial's at 2:22, right? And then you'll see something at 2:23. I think this is when she started to search. Or right after that. Anywhere between 2:23 and 2:27, she searched for how long to die in cold. And who was she on the phone with? And why did she take a screenshot of something? Like maybe the results of her Google search that she terminated after that screenshot, maybe? That means that she had knowledge that he was dying, or that he needed to die in the cold, and how long it was going to take. It proves Karen Read is innocent of anything.
Sure. So the artifact on that was called a Safari Suspended Tabs artifact, and there's a database associated with that called the Browser DB database, and in a company file, which is by the same name but ends in WAL, which stands for Write Ahead Log. And the Write Ahead Log is where the data first gets written to, and then at certain points, that data then gets committed and written to the main database.
All right. So that, if I'm correct, that browserstate.db/wall file, that's a temporary file, right?
It's temporary by nature, but it's not. It's integral. It's part of the way the SQLite functions. So it's not like a throwaway file. It's part of the way the whole system works.
And is it helpful to you when evaluating artifacts?
Certainly, yeah. Just by nature of it, we'll find a lot of the newest artifacts in that wall file.
Now, how do you determine the timing in terms of the timestamp on the browserstate.db wall file?
Sure. So the wall file has different rows and columns. You can kind of think of it as an Excel spreadsheet. And in this one particular column, had it was a time column. That'd be the nature of the data going into it. And this the heading on this particular one was last viewed time.
Okay. Regarding that Google search for HOS long, and I say HOS, HOS long to
Correct.
die in cold, found in the browserstate.db wall file, what was the date and time for that artifact?
Sure. So that's recorded in what's called Apicocoa time, and it's actually the number of seconds since January 1st, 2001. So you end up with this large number, but that gets converted to present to us something that's human readable, and then you have to apply the offset for the local. So once you do all those calculations, that's where we get the January 29th, 2022 at 2:27
Okay.
in the morning.
The specific, do you remember the number of seconds after?
I believe it's 40 seconds.
2:27, 40 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay. And in what state did you find that artifact?
Yeah, so the specific artifact, or it comes from a record, and the record number on this is 4028, I believe, and it was in a deleted state.
Okay.
Okay. So DB Wall Files, which is how he found this Google search. All right. He found it because the troopers didn't have the wherewithal to dig into these artifacts to find things on Jen McCabe's phone. So when he found that, the issue that everyone has, including the prosecution's expert witness, Ian Whiffen, who helped write some of the software in Celebrite to pick these things up. The problem is that the DB Wall file is a temporary file. And because there was no specific P list or database that captured that Google search in the Safari web browser, that's the problem. However, DB Wall files, even though they're temporary in nature, that would make you assume in your brain, well, if they're temporary and they weren't erased when the extraction was looked at, it means that must have been the last moment of the write-ahead log file to timestamp, which was at 2:27, what it was about to do to be erased, because it's temporary. So it has to be the last, what is she going to do with this suspended state, right? DB Wall file in the Safari suspended state tab. It tells us that was the last time that this artifact is saying something else was about to happen or did happen. It's the latest point in time of the search. It had to have happened, hands down, with 100% certainty, before or at 2:27 and 40 seconds. And I do have a theory on how that happened. It's on Twitter. I think I've gone over this before. But SQLite, if you go and just look at what they say, look at how it works. For instance, the traditional rollback journal works by writing a copy of the original unchanged database content into a separate journal file. Think of it as a bucket or a folder. And then the writing changes directly into the database file. In the event of a crash or rollback, the original content contained in the rollback journal is played back into the database file to revert, blah, 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 to its original state. The commit occurs when the rollback journal is deleted. It never committed. It was in a suspended state Safari tab because something happened where she terminated the Safari web browser with that Google search in it before it had a chance to commit to the database. Hence, suspended state. She got out of that screen and did something which I feel is the screenshot she took and then deleted. All right? It makes sense. It makes 100% sense to me. What doesn't make sense is using a previous browser right before the 623 How Long to Die in Cold Search, and 624 rather, as an excuse for why it's there at 227 in these files. No, in the metadata. Absolutely not. It did not commit because she Googled it. And by the way, it doesn't work on networks. These database, the metadata, it works on what the phone did. Okay. And it didn't commit because she exited out of that browser before it could commit. That's why the DB Wall file is just sitting there in a suspended state. Nothing ever happened after that. She got out of it, period. I'm sorry I have to repeat it, but people just piss me off when they try to fight me on this. It's right here in the SQLite.org how it works. They lay it out for you in its most basic sense. You don't have to complicate things at all. just read the basics. How do things work? And there is proof that there are issues in errors writing things to the database, but there's other ways around that to find out what happened otherwise. There's many databases that Cellebrite and other software can pick up. So anyway, long story short, she Googled how sign to die in cold on or before 2/27. Karen should not be charged. Absolutely not at this point. We're almost there. We're almost done.
Now, what would you normally expect to find along with the artifact search?
So you'd have the date and time, the URL, which the way the URL presents itself, we know that as a Google search, but you also see a history of other places that tab has been.
And with this particular artifact, did you learn the full internet history of websites related to that record?
No, that wasn't possible. We were only able to get the one website. I would say,
And I'm sorry,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I interrupted you. Sorry.
Well, no, so we definitely got the one artifact, the Google search, and we have the time related to it, but we do not know everywhere else that tab had been.
What significance was there to you about the fact that the full internet history related to that record?
And it probably was a private browser that she opened and then exited out of, and then Hakama Sports that she had already searched popped up immediately after that via Alan Jackson and the Apple Cocoa Core time, in my opinion. So she went to the private search thinking, oh, nobody's going to see this because, hey, I have friends who can cover for me. Went to the private search, House on a Dying Cold pops up. It isn't even done loading yet, or maybe right as it's loading the results, she screenshots it, exits it out of it, goes back in, and Hakama pulls right up. My opinion.
Record could not be recovered.
Well, I wanted to do a little deeper dive into that, and so I used some various other database specific tools. One was called Belkasoft X, which has an excellent database viewer in it, and saw the tools.
And in
Database file.
And so, what do you compare the 227 AM search to in order to gain more information?
Exactly.
I'm sorry.
What the information was. So what we found is that when we looked at a particular URL, a particular website that was visited, and then searched using that URL, the browser state database entry is the last entry in all of that. So we could see searches, videos playing. There's an artifact called Knowledge C that records the user's activity.
I placed the document before you, sir. If you
A search that we conducted for raining men. And then it takes that search, and we have a couple different items on there. We set the date to begin.
I think I've made my point. We don't have to go into anymore. I got to wrap it up anyways. Guys, thank you so much for listening to me ramble for almost an hour and a half. There's more to go over, though. The other two, I didn't get to the Better Row bombshells or the appeal, but we're going to watch that appeal. I'm hoping that they will have it available for us to watch. I mean, I don't see why not. They do it for everybody else. If you're interested and nerdy like me, there is a website where you can go watch. Well, there's a YouTube channel. But you can go look at oral arguments. And it's fascinating to me what they go over. It's amazing. But the YouTube, I think the channel is at SJC Mass or something like that. SJC Massachusetts, and you can listen to how they argue, what oral arguments are like. So I think you get like 15 minutes on each side to protest their case. Typically, it starts with the person who has filed the appeal, and then the other side argues why they think otherwise. It's awesome. And you know what's funny? This issue with not polling the jurors has come up so many times this year alone that, come on, guys, come on, change the fucking law or the writings in the law. Even the one of the Supreme Chief Justices of the courts was like, we are so sick and tired of telling these judges to do this or that when in regards to jury instructions and polling the jury. Like, they're tired of selling. Then change it. It's that simple. Do your job. But again, thank you so much for being here, guys. I will be doing a live with the oral arguments come hell or high water. If that means I have a baby on my hip and he's screaming, I don't care. We're going to do it. I have been waiting for this since the appeal process happened. So yes, I will be. And I'll keep you guys updated. So stick around for that, or hang tight for that. And then I'll be doing a part 2 on this live to do the appeal detail and Bettero letters. Much love to you guys. Go ahead and hit that like button on your way out. And I'll see you on the next live. Bye.